All right, good afternoon. We're sending you warm, tight hugs, WFM 91.7, still the 3rd of August, 2021, and it is now time for Towards an Inclusive Governance in Nigeria Series 2 on Political Arena. Yeah, it is exactly a minute past 2 o'clock, and we will be looking at the role of voter education in enhancing women political participation. My name is Kimberly Obiebo, and our guest today on the program, first we're going to be talking with Louis Chinedu, who's the program manager, Nigerian Women Trust Fund, and later on we're going to have Bukola Idowu, who is the executive director, Impact Development Initiative. Hello, lovely Louis Chinedu. How's the afternoon going?
Fine, thank you. Good afternoon.
All right, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, so Towards an Inclusive Governance in Nigeria is an initiative of Nigerian Women Trust Fund and supported by Open Society Initiative of West Africa. And in the 2019 general elections, women made up 47.7% of the registered voters. However, women make up less than 5% of elective office positions in Nigeria. Now, one of the barriers of women participation in governance is lack of knowledge and technical know-how in electoral processes. Elections are a core process within a democracy. We know that. Inadequate voter education leads to poor participation in voter registration. And then, of course, lack of understanding of voting procedures, underage voting, and electoral violence. So voters' education addresses voters' motivation and preparedness to participate fully in elections. Women have the right to vote and contest in elections. So the phone lines will be open shortly. You can be a part of the conversation that we will be having on 07000 917 917. But in the meantime, you can send your comments via our social media handle at WFM 917. And you can be a part of the conversation by sending your text or WhatsApp messages to 07031756537. Listen live, of course, from anywhere in the world at www.wfm917.com. Now, over to you, Louis. Do you think that illiteracy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. Do you think that illiteracy among women has contributed to the low representation of women in governance?
Yeah, I think it's more than even illiteracy. It's one thing to be an illiterate, yes, but why I'm saying not completely is because sometimes there are also people who are supposedly literate but do not have the required information now in terms of voter information as regards the where, the when, the how, especially for young people who are just clocking 18. Or about to clock 18.
Right.
So for this group of people, they are not illiterate per se. They are literate, but in terms of voter information, voter education, they could also be seen as illiterate in those fields because, yes, I have gone to school, I know every other thing, but in terms of voting, what I should be doing, how, the when, why it's important, for some of us, we do not, we just, will I say we are just ignorant or we are illiterate in that angle. So yes, illiteracy is a core issue, but more than that, there are still some educated illiterate when it comes to voter education.
Okay, so now what do you think can be done to increase women awareness of their democratic rights and fundamental freedom?
The basic thing is first and foremost voter education, civic education, and voter information. They all seem alike, but they are different in their own ways. So, for example, when one talks about voter education, it's specific as regards to the where, the when, the how, and what you should be doing to go about it. So this kind of education are mostly geared towards young people or people who have just clocked 18. So, for example, the ongoing CVR process is one very good example that a lot of us have used to engage, young people to make them realize that now is the time for you to, register, and these are the things that you need to do. Then another thing that will also come in handy and very important is in terms of civic education, which is a bit broader because it doesn't also just tell you about what you should be doing as a voter, but it's more broad because it tells you about your rights as a citizen. It also encompasses what you should be doing at the community level, and then goes beyond that to also try to see how it can motivate you to look forward to the process JS3 or even from primary school, they are already, being taught that there are things that you as a citizen of a country should do. There are things that you should know are your rights, and then it builds you up to that process so that by the time you're clocking 18, you are now demanding for specific information. Now that I am 18 or I'm about to be 18, what then do I do? Then voter information is a bit now more streamlined. So it's something that is always done close to the election period, where you're telling people that, look, it's one thing to have registered. It's something to have your PVC. But if you do this during election day, you would invariably have an invalid ballot, paper. So they tell you, for example, from 8 to 2 p.m., you need to ensure that you are available for voting. This and this are what you should be expecting. These are the things that you need to do. This is how you should put your thumbprint, So those kind of information, are what you get that's more specific. And these are kind of information that we actually share with women. Because sometimes for most women, we understand that we will just go and vote. So, for example, those who are not quite educated, who just believe that we will take whatever it is that is available, we will go and vote. Yeah. But we go beyond that to let them understand that irrespective of the fact that it's your right as a citizen to vote, as a woman, you also have the right to also contest for elected positions. And then we make them understand that the 1, 2, 3 votes that you end up misusing is also what has affected a lot of us, and has made us, several steps backwards than where we ordinarily should be. So,
all right. Now, you mentioned civic. Now, what is the role of civil society organizations now in organizing trainings on electoral processes and media relations for women?
Fantastic. The role of civil society still lies on the fact that we are also, the arm that tries to bring to the consciousness of people what they should be doing, how they should go about it. But civil society alone cannot do it. And that's why beyond civil society, we've also had, to engage political parties to make them realize that at the end of the day, you are the huge, you're the group of people who would largely benefit from the process because you have a lot of things, at stake. And irrespective of the fact that civil society would go and demand and then tell citizens, look, this is your right, come out and vote, these are the things that you should do. Remember that we also in Nigeria practice a multi-party, system where you have several parties. And that is where most times the challenges lie because for most people in communities, they may just know only 2 political parties that, have structures across all community, all states and all of that. But for political parties that are not there, this is now them. It's now the time for them to also, raise up to the occasion of saying, okay, we have something to gain or we have something to lose. So we should also, tell people to understand that apart from the 2 huge political parties that are there, these are other political parties that are available and that these are the options. Because what we have seen over the years is that when you carry out voter education programs and then you're sensitizing women and you're telling them, when it gets to the part where you're saying, it's not just only 2 political parties that are available, there are several political parties, and then you need to start explaining. For some people, they are lost. And that's why I say this is also where political parties need to support. INEC, on the other hand, is also supporting in the way they can do, in the way that they can carry out this activity, but there's still room for improvement, which means that it's something that it's multi-sectoral approach. So while the media is carrying out their own responsibilities on air, online, and wherever. Then INEC also does its own bit in terms of also encouraging citizens to play their part. Civil society, on the other end, would also do as much as they can. Political parties will also do as much as they can. If we all can play our part, then it makes the process easier. But what we've seen in Nigeria most times is that the bulk of the responsibilities of carrying out civic and voter education is always left to civil society. And most times civil society are funded by donors, which means sometimes you may be bound to work in only some certain areas, which may also mean you may not be able to cover as much areas as you will cover. But if in this case, religious leaders, traditional leaders, gatekeepers decide to also take it, you can imagine the multiplier effect it will have. But would just like to, compare what we've been doing in Nigeria to maybe a country like South Africa in 1994.
Okay.
And I think for me, South Africa has the highest number of, voters at that period because it became something that every citizen was entitled to do. So even the BNB in South Africa then called civil society and said, okay, can you tell us the areas you want to push your messages so that we do not have duplication of effort? So civil societies will tell them they will carry on the part, civil society will carry on the part, political party will carry on the part. And before you know it, as of 1994, South Africa has the best election in terms of voter turnout. So for me in Nigeria, especially because we've been having voter apathy for over 2 cycles right now, it's been declining on a steady. And for me that's not good enough. We are approaching 2023, which means all hands needs to be on deck right now, especially in terms of women and young women.
And young women. All right then, 12 minutes after 2, and this is Women Radio. You're listening to Towards an Inclusive Governance in Nigeria. So we're still on political arena, and Towards an Inclusive Governance in Nigeria is an initiative of Nigerian Women Trust Fund and supported by Open Society Initiative of West Africa. I am Kimberly Obiebo, and we have our guest, Lois Chinedu, who is the program manager, Nigerian Women Trust Fund, and later on Bukola Ido, executive director, Kimpact Development Initiative. She'll be joining us shortly as well. Now, let me ask you this, Lois. There is a misconception about gender laws, such as the 35% affirmative action among male lawmakers who perceive it as threatening to their seats. What are your thoughts on this?
So it brings us back to where we are, why we also saying that we need more women in governance. And personally, I'm in support for it, and more than 35%, I'm actually in support that we even move forward, to demand 50, and then maybe they can meet us halfway. The reason why I am also not a strong proponent of just staying at 35% is because we've been demanding and advocating for 35% for quite a long time, and most times we get the feeling that you've demanded for 35%, we've given you maybe 15. Shouldn't you at least take that and start with it? But like I usually say, when you carry out voter education programs, it's also a way of advancing gender equality, because elections are important steps in consolidating the gains that women have made. So if, for example, as women, we had a good number of women, say 25% in the National Assembly, then we would not also be, faced with the challenges that we are currently faced in right now, because you would have at least a good number of women who are going to be speaking on our issues and stating the facts the way it is. And like I usually say, politics is not given. You have to fight for it. You have to demand. You have to do whatever it is to get it, because power is not given a la carte. So for me, the people who are there already requested and asking, if you're telling us to give you 35%, if you're saying we should give out some seats, whose seat are you asking us to give? This is constantly the questions, we've met when you go to say, please, these are the issues. And then you need to ensure that at least the voices of women are heard. They begin to ask you that, okay, so who are the people who should relieve their seats for you? And whose seat do you want to take?
Okay.
For me, the people who are there are not willing to let go of what they have, which means that women now have to work twice as hard and put in more effort than we've been doing. And I'm glad that Honorable Inchironya Jocha is actually, living up to the expectations, and is also working hard to see that even if we don't get the required 35, we get up to 25% affirmative action, which is why we are currently with her, and we support her in its entirety. The demand for an additional 111.
Okay. All right. Lois, now, still on illiteracy, yeah? Women are disproportionately affected by, I beg your pardon, by illiteracy. Now, girls face considerably difficulties acquiring basic reading and writing skills. So I want to hear from you what can be done to ensure that the girl child education is seen as a norm.
Okay, I think for girl child education, this is something that has been on the front burner for long. And I know that for a while we've had remarkable improvements, although we also are aware that in some states you wouldn't also compare the results you've gotten from the places such as the south, southeast to places of the north. And I think for me, a key driver to ensuring that is also in terms of having the voices of women put at the table. Because like I usually say, nobody understands our pain as much as we. He who wears the shoes knows where he pinches. So for someone who feels that your work is to, when I train you, you would finish, get married, and you would leave. Maybe you go to your husband's house. I may not really benefit from it. The tendency is that the person still feels that I should still favor the male folk more than the female. Now we've had a lot of women who have come out to say that's not true. And this is something that everybody has accepted. We've had that on the front burner, and I know that there are a lot of organizations also demanding for, basic education. But like I would always say, some of these things, and we also miss some of the points. So, for example, we demand that female children return to school. Yes, we do not have favorable environment for female children to carry on school activities without having issue. A child returns to school, the sanitary conditions is not conducive, which means that I get to school, and when I'm on my monthly cycle, I miss classes. So for me, if we need to get it straight, we also need to put round squares in round holes. What are the issues? The issues that have affected women for quite a long time, and why is it that when we put female students in school, it's still sometimes challenging to have them pass through education. So the first thing we need to tackle is security. We already know what the security situation is in the country currently. How many people are also willing to let go of their children? Once we're able to tackle that, provide adequate sanitary conditions for schools, then we are in the right step, going towards the right direction, which means we'll have more female enrolled in schools. So for me, it's still in the issue of getting more women into governance structures, getting more women into leadership. And for those who are there, including our male, the he for she's who say they support women, this will now be a good time to ensure that the security of the country is quite conducive. Then education in terms of sanitary condition in the school is also quite something that is good. And I think more increasingly what we've seen is also the various forms of gender-based violence that have come up even in secondary schools. I think it's something that is now what the said, and a lot of people are beginning to raise questions, which means our female children are not safe at home. And even when we decide to send them to school, if we don't also ensure that there are laws, gender-sensitive laws punishing offenders, they will still get to school and then have women face these challenges in school.
All right, let's talk about, let's get your thoughts on building women's platforms and networks to enhance the potential of female candidates. What do you have to say about that?
Okay, in terms of building women's platforms, I think that currently in Nigeria, we are actually working towards that. I know a lot of women-led organizations that have agreed that there is a women's agenda. We've also been able to realize that women are not homogeneous, which means that we are all different, and that it's okay to disagree, to agree, because of course it's normal. So in terms of building female platforms, I know that there are a lot of platforms that are currently being formed and has been built. So for example, you have the Manifesto platform, which is ongoing and coalescing the support of all women's-led organizations and women's rights activists to ensure that come 2023, the status quo does not remain the same. I am also aware that there are also lists of qualified women in terms of candidates, in terms of aspirants who are available, and organizations are putting their data and information together so that when the time comes and then we need to leverage on all of these resources, it's easy to go to a list to pull them out. And then another thing that I have also seen more recently is that we as women have also been able to see that when it comes to power, the opinion of men are usually not divided. So it's always on us when we decide to divide our own opinions, amongst ourselves. A house that is divided amongst itself will not stand. I realize that Most of us have realized that, and currently there are a lot of coalitions and platforms that are genuinely supporting women's issues and are driving, women's issues, forward. So I believe that by the time, by the end of the year or next year, we will get these different platforms and networks.
All right, it's towards an inclusive governance in Nigeria. You're still on political arena. Still a lovely Tuesday afternoon, and it is 22 minutes after 2, and I am Kimberly Obieba. We have our lovely guest, Lois Chinedu, who is a program manager, Nigerian Women Trust Fund, and towards an inclusive governance in Nigeria is an initiative of Nigerian Women Trust Fund and supported by Open Society Initiative of West Africa. Now, let's talk about the continuous voters registration, Louis. The CVR is on. What is the role of female politicians in active offices to mobilize women in rural areas to participate in the exercise?
The role of female politicians cannot be overemphasized. I think usually we always come with this backdrop that during elections you have more women. I've heard that severally. A lot of people will say we have more women who come out to vote, but whenever the results come out, we are being told that women are not there. And I keep telling them that some of all these things are evidence-based and we need the data to prove our point. Currently, we've had over 1.1 million, voter that are 1.4 million registered people online, and INEC reported to say out of that number, it's practically about 492,000 or thereabout that are women. You still have a total of over 642,000 men. So for us, what we've been doing is to use it and then tell female politicians that now is the time, since most of them have realized the role that the grassroots plays, community plays, now is the time to take this message home. And I know that for sure, for a few of them, what they've done is to create centers where they've been able to get young people who are interested in registering but do not have the means to actually come into their centers, register, and then pick a date for INEC. That's one fantastic idea that I know has been working for a few of them. But for the others who are yet to do it, we still tell them this is the time that you need. We have a window of opportunity of, let's say, probably between 8 months to 1 year before INEC, shuts down the process again in preparation for 2023. So right now is the time to reach out to those women, because more than we realize, those are the group of women that will actually come out, stand on the queue to vote. What we have seen over the years is that for the young people who are literate, feel that is not their business or that elections will be rigged. But for those who are at the grassroots and at the community level, they are actually the ones that will come out, even if maybe at the end they end up, being bought over. But there's a tendency that they will stay, vote, and then, cast their ballot. So for us, for the politicians who have started, engaging and have created centers for young people or women in communities to come into the centers and then at least register, that's a good one. For those who are also encouraging through social media and all of that, that's a good one. But more than that, I think we still have a lot of work to do. And in this case, not just female politicians, but women as well, generally. If you are a woman, you should be asking the next woman that you see, do you have your PVC? Are you 18? Have you registered? What are you waiting for? We need to put a feminine nature through the CGR process so that they also realize that, look, it's part of us. It's not only the boys or the men that should be registering, but you as women, it's also something that we should do.
So, Louis, lack of finance is another barrier to women participation in governance. Now, are there trainings that can teach women how to raise funds to support their political campaigns?
Yes. There have been trainings and there are still ongoing training for that. I think we've also been able to share a lot of publications in terms of how to mobilize resources for women who intend aspiring or contesting for positions. So, yes, there are a lot of trainings, but like I would always say, it's not just the training that works, but for people to actually put this information together and actually make very good use of them. I know that in 2019, before the 2019 general elections in 2018, we had a lot of engagement with female politicians, and we told them, and this would be a good platform to let women who want to aspire know that there are other ways that you can raise funds, and that it's not only in terms of financial resources. Financial resources is key, but we should also look at our human resources, the strength of the network. Because what we've been doing over the years is to tell women that one way you can support another woman is through your funding. And even if you cannot fund her, you could support her by sharing details, linking her up to people who can actually fund the process. So there are a lot of trainings, and there will be a lot of trainings ongoing. Currently, we have a project running in 6 states. Right now, 6 states in the Federation, and that's what we've been doing. We've been training them because the time is actually now. So for each one that has received the training, you also have the responsibility to share. And then for those who are listening online, you can log on to Women's Fund's website. There is a publication there that is titled Resource Mobilization Strategy. Women can also read it up. If, in case you're not able to attend a fiscal training, that's also something you could read up, and then it gives you some knowledge about how to raise funds for political activities.
All right, so 2023 is fast approaching. What is the role of the media now in ensuring that women are portrayed in the right light so as to avoid interviews and stories that undermine the capability of women?
The
role of the media, yeah.
The role of the media is something that beyond even 2023, starting from now, is the media that has it's the media that can take on the work that people do. So, for example, I know that there has been a lot of training for media houses in terms of, directing their thoughts towards issues that affect women in terms of the main issues in politics and not personal issues. But be that as it may, I think one of the key roles that the media can start doing right now is to begin to highlight possible aspirants, people who we know would either come out to contest. So this could be a good time to begin to reach out to people who would want to contest for elections, and then tell them that, okay, you want to contest for elections, can we air, can we do a documentary for you like what Women Radio has been doing? How can we help support you? Because for most women, they do not have the resources, to maybe organize press conferences or call meetings or do documentaries. So what we've been doing on our own end is to do a few documentaries. I think media houses can pick on all of these documentaries and also showcase women's ability beyond the personal, so in terms of what they can actually do and the power that they hold to,
All right, Lois. Now let's get your final words and what you would advise women running for public offices at all levels.
The final word for women running for politics at all levels is that the time has started. So if you are interested and if you are capable, you should have already had by now your campaign plans, your manifesto, know the party you belong to, the party you want to contest. The plan is actually to have started 2 years back, in fact, 2019. Immediately the last election finished, you should have started your process. But if you have not, the time to start is now. There is no time to delay. One issue we've always had with women is that we will keep dilly-dallying, and then at the end of the day, we'll just decide maybe a year before the elections that we want to contest. For every woman who knows that she's capable, she has what it takes. The time to start is now. Form your alliances as much as you can. Form your resource base. Try to reach out to many people to support you, and then let's take it up from there. All
right, Lois, thank you very much. That was a brilliant one. Thank you so much. It's now time for us to connect to Bukola Ido, our second guest, on towards an inclusive governance in Nigeria on political arena. That's on air right now on WFM 91.7, where we discuss politicking in Nigeria. And towards an inclusive governance in Nigeria is an initiative of Nigerian Women Trust Fund and supported by Open Society Initiative of West Africa. And on political arena today, we are discussing we are discussing the role of voter education in enhancing women political participation. Yeah, that's right. I am Kimberly Obiebo, and like I said earlier, we'll try to Get connection with Bukola Ido, Executive Director, Impact Development Initiative. If you're just joining us, in the 2019 general elections, women made up 47.7% of the registered voters. However, women make up less than 5% of elective office positions in Nigeria. To be a part of the conversation, the phone line is 07000 197 197. That's 07000 197 197. Send a text or WhatsApp message to 070 537. Hello, Bukola. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you so much for taking time to be here. So how's the day going for you?
Fine. And you?
Yeah, going good. Good to have you. Now, let's talk about, let's start from, do you think that illiteracy among women has contributed to the low representation of women in governance?
Well, I don't think so. I don't think literacy has contributed to that.
Bukola, we have a call. We have a call. Please hold that thought, please. Hello, good afternoon. Women Radio. Hello, Women Radio. All right.
Hello?
Yes, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
All right, let's get your contribution.
I'm not on my radio.
Okay.
I can continue.
All right, go ahead, Bukola, please. Go ahead.
Okay, yes. I was saying I don't think illiteracy is one of the, of the major reasons why women representation at the leadership position is low. Basically, there are a lot of factors that are responsible for that.
Right.
Because when you even look at where academic qualifications are not needed, most especially at the ward level, at the lowest phase of the political party structure, you still don't have women represented adequately at that particular level. So that particular level does not even require academic probably PhD or which academic qualifications. But you have a lot of factors mitigating against women representation. One of them is the cultural factor, the erroneous religious factor. And we also look at the aspect of our laws that are not really favorable to women representation. I believe most of these have been the issues that have been affecting women representation, most especially at the leadership level.
All right. So there is a misconception about gender laws such as the 35% affirmative action against male lawmakers, male lawmakers who perceive it as threatening to their seats. What are your thoughts on this, Bukola?
Please, can you come again?
So there is a misconception about gender laws, the 35% affirmative action among male lawmakers who perceive it as a threat to their seats. Do you have your thoughts to share on this?
Yes, of course. I think for over a year now, we've been working with the lawmakers, trying to see how we can come to terms as regards this issue of 35% affirmation. Don't forget this issue of 35% affirmation for women is part of the policy, the national policy, women policy. And what we are just asking for is that anything policy is still not a law, but we are looking at the situation where this can be put as part of the Nigerian law, because it has to be part of the constitution and it has to be followed. And that is one of the ways you can open the spaces or the space up for women to come in. But having said that, 35% affirmation has to be statutory, and the men are already seeing this as a threat, and I must tell you the fact. And the reason is this, because most times if you are going to have like a position, maybe a party position at the leadership of the political party, what you are trying to say is that there are positions or that men should not even go for, because you just want the women to be there. So in other words, they are beginning to see this as a threat to their seat. And for instance now, in the Senate, the Nigerian Senate, you have 109 seats. So if you want to go by that, then you are expecting that 35% of them, of the 109, have to be women. You are also looking at 35% of the 350 seats in the House of Representatives to be women. You are expecting the cabinet of Mr. President at 35% of them to be women. And so these men begin to see that, look, they are going to get, the women are going to get this automatically. Not that they are likely going to get it based on merit or what, but these have been a threat to that particular to legalize or to make it a constitutional matter. However, I think that has been a huge misconception. No, there is when you look at development, vis-a-vis economic development, infrastructure development, even in terms of human capital development, most of the nations that have more women representation are doing excellently well. Even in Africa, not to talk of, we are not even referring to Europe now, we are talking about Africa. You see that women are, most of those countries are doing excellently well. So what do we need to do? And that's why some of us also still support the idea of creating special seat for women. You know that there is a bill now in the House, co-sponsored by Geruka, I can't pronounce it very well, but the Speaker also was also a co-sponsor of that particular bill. And what that bill is saying is that to create special seat for women to be able to come into leadership position, maybe into the House of Assembly, the Federal House of Assembly. We are looking at Senate, the House of Representatives, and the state legislature. So I think this is also going to be one of the ways. If the 35% of affirmation actions cannot actually be done by these people, by the men, but we are now seeing that, look, they are supporting special seats. And I tell you, one of the reasons why they are supporting special seats is that their existing seats are not threatened. So you are only bringing in more women. Then that is fine. So far, you are not displacing any of it. You are not displacing me. Then I am fine by that. And that is what we have seen played out. So I think if we can achieve the 35%, which for me too, I also feel is also very, very, is still a means of tokenism for the people, because where we can do 50%, why are we talking about 35%? When you look at Rwanda is doing more than that. Even Egypt is doing more than 35. So, but having said that, I still feel that if you cannot get the 35% based on our cultural diversity and based on our religious beliefs, and then I think the idea of additional seat for women would be a great deal to push. All right,
then, Bukola, well said. The phone line to be a part of the conversation is 07000 917. I beg your pardon, 917. That's 07000 917 917. The line is open now, so you can call in or send your comments via text or WhatsApp message to 070 317 56537. That's 070 317 56537. It's now 20 minutes to the top of the hour. It is towards an inclusive governance in Nigeria, Series 2 on political arena. And yeah, so we are discussing the role of voter education in enhancing women political participation. And our guest on the line right now is Bukola Edo, Executive Director, Kimpact Development Initiative. Towards an Inclusive Governance in Nigeria is an initiative of Nigerian Women Trust Fund and supported by Open Society Initiative of West Africa. Now, let me ask you this, Bukola. What is the role of civil society organizations in organizing trainings on electoral processes and media relations for women?
Huge responsibility. I still believe, what the civil society has been referred to as the third sector of of any nation, or the third sector, of any nation, where you have the public, the private, and then we refer to civil society as the third sector. And most times, they bridge the gap between the citizen and the government. Now, the civil society has a lot of roles to play, and one of them is by training and retraining and supporting, and see how they can support women, either most especially in the aspect of training. One, most of these women that want to train are just coming into that arena for the first time, and there are a lot of trainings they might have. They might need to be trained on. Number one is, for instance, now there are a lot of dynamics around Nigerian politics that people, most of the women need to know. The dynamics in terms of campaigning, the dynamics in terms of nomination, and the dynamics in terms of developing manifesto, the dynamics in terms of understanding the complexity of our political party. And when I say complexity of our political parties, I am actually referring to, in other countries and how it should be, political parties are owned by the people. But in Nigeria, you find that a group of people or a single person holds the political party, begin to fund the political party, becomes a godfather, and begin to dictate who he wants in a particular position. So most of these things need to be taught how the women can navigate most of these hurdles. And again, we need now to begin to look at the aspect where civil society, we also need to begin to speak out for women. And this has to be done. It has to be done in partnership with the media. Of course, what your station is doing there.
I'm going to ask you the role of the media. We're going to get to that shortly. But now let's talk about the continuous voters registration that is on. What is the role of female politicians in active offices now to mobilize women in rural areas to participate in the CVR exercise?
If you look at the data for the online registration for women now, is not encouraging, and I must say. And what I'm saying that is that I think women have like about 40% now out of the registration, online registration. So they have like about 400,000 thereabouts. But this is where we want the women, most especially current political office holder. They need to now begin to mobilize women to come out and vote. Now, I tell you, I am presently speaking to you from Osun State. If you look at the data, Osun State has the highest number of people who registered online. And then looking at the model, what did they do in Osun State? Most of these politicians, most of these political parties now set up a place where they encourage people who doesn't have access to the internet to come in and do their online registration free of charge. Now, what about if women politicians, women who are currently holding one office or the other, set this up specifically for women? Now, you understand what that means? Specifically for women. You are not even talking about a young male or old adult male. You are not, but you are just focusing on women, and this will go a long way. No, it goes beyond. It goes beyond telling people. Just flyers and say, or radio adverts or TV adverts to say, hey, women come out and vote. I think it goes beyond that, because they also understand their peculiarity. They also understand what are so peculiar to women. So they can create this specifically, this center specifically to encourage women to come out and vote. And I think to come out and register for their CVR, and then this will help them to pick a time at where they go for their physical capturing. The physical capturing has nothing to do with the internet. Physical capturing is just what INEC is going to do, and that is also going to be decentralized. So what I think is that the present crop of politicians who are women, who are holding one position or the other, should endeavor to encourage women by removing some of these technological hindrances that they have the access to do, remove it, and then allow the women to come in and then register. And by that, you will have been able to increase the number. And don't forget, the more women that come to register, and then the more participation of the women we are going to have when it comes to election. And this is also not something that is going to go on for eternity.
Yeah.
It's also having time band. It has to stop. For instance, in Anambra now, it has to stop before the election. Probably in a month's time, TVR is going to stop in Anambra. Now for AKT, I'm not sure election that is coming in 2022, it also have a deadline. And most of the CVR also will stop before 2023 election. So I think this is the time for the mobilization to take place.
Now, Bukola, talking about election, 2023 is fast approaching. What is the role of the media? We're now at that point where we'll talk about the media in ensuring that women are portrayed in the right light to avoid, stories that undermine the capability of women. What do you think the role of media is now? For me,
I start your radio station and few others. I find that a lot of radio stations, a lot of media organizations, don't let me say radio station now, a lot of media organizations don't even understand what the issues are. And I think the first thing for the media organization is for them to understand what the issues are, to be able to address it. That is number one. Number two is that I think the greatest responsibility the media organization have now is how do we begin to combat the issue of misinformation and disinformation against gender equality. And that is very key, because many of the narratives out there which are been erroneously put out there, we see the media as the instrument to be able to give out the right information about women. For instance, now I just talked about a bill that that are being proposed to increase the women representation in the Senate, in the House of Representatives, and even in the State House of Representatives. So what do we need to do? Media need to get this bill and now have a discussion around this, create a public opinion and perception around this, as against the negative opinion that it's going to increase the cost of governance. It's going to it's a means of tokenism. It's a means of elevating the women above the men. But I think the media has a lot to do when it comes to tackling misinformation and disinformation. Then again, don't also forget, I remember just last year, around this time last year, my organization did a research on why women are not coming out to participate in political matters. And one of them is hate speech against them. Hate speech and misogynistic comments about them. At least most of these sexist comments about them, that they feel that any woman coming out to say, I want to contest, I want to go for a political position. Many people feel that, look, they don't always have a settled home, or they are the people who are not really listening to their husband, and things like that. Now, this is where we need the media to begin to come out and help the women, because this is just the truth. Any society that is not engendered is already endangered, and that is just the truth. Because you need to have a gender equality for that particular society to move forward, and I think all hands need to be on deck. Now, the civil society can feed the information, the media need to push it out, and that is where this collaboration has to come in. So, I also understand the political party also need to do their own aspect too.
All right. Now, lack of finance is another barrier to women participation in governance. Now, are there trainings that can teach women how to raise funds to support their political campaigns? Are you aware of training?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. Presently now, I can mention like about 3 organizations who are doing excellently, who are already having a plan in place, and as I'm talking to you, some of them are even taking application for women who are looking forward to contest in 2023. One of the organizations doing excellently well in that regard is LSR. So people can actually go and then, of course, you can just press Google and just go on Google and look at that and look at what they have, connect with them, and then they are supporting women both in terms of finances and also technical support in terms of training and the rest. Now you also have UN Women there in Nigeria doing excellently well, and even one of the the founders of this program, which is a Women Trust Fund, they are also doing excellently well. So we have a lot of organizations, but I think where the issue now is that women need to begin to ask the right question. We need to begin to collaborate, and they need to begin to collaborate and network so that they can have access to some of these information. And this is key. This is key.
All right, before we get your final words on the program this afternoon, what would be your advice to women running for offices at all levels?
Well, I think my advice is going to be that, look, anybody running for office who is a woman now, and coming into the office, I think they have the greatest opportunity to open the space up more for other young women coming in, and they need to do that by building a lot of competence. So they need to understand what the issues are. They need to build a great deal in terms of self-esteem, so that they will be able to stand shoulder to shoulder, even in the house, whichever political position they find themselves in, and they will be able to compete, and in terms of content, in terms of character, with their male counterparts. So I am so sure that when people begin to see the competence of the women in all these positions, then the conversation begins to change, because people we are going to gravitate towards competence and character. And I know the women need that, they have that, and so they just need to begin to exhibit this. So for as many that want to contest, they need to deliberately now begin to go for content. You need to have solid content, understand what the issues are, and then build character around it. And before you know it, the space begins to get wider and wider for women.
Bukola Idol, thank you very much for joining us on Political Arena this afternoon. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you. All right, Bukola Idol is the Executive Director, Impact Development Initiatives, and he was our guest on Political Arena this afternoon. Earlier on, we had Louis Chinedu, Program Manager, Nigerian Women Trust Fund. It's towards an inclusive governance in Nigeria, Series 2, on Political Arena. And now, Towards an Inclusive Governance in Nigeria is an initiative of Nigerian Women Trust Fund and supported by Open Society Initiative of West Africa. And this is WFM 91.7. All right, towards an inclusive governance. Now, I need you to know that women's political participation is a fundamental prerequisite for gender equality and genuine democracy. Effective voter education efforts are crucial to ensuring that all potential voters have the necessary information not only to exercise their rights to vote, but also to understand and have confidence in the entire electoral process. Women need to be included in voters' education and trainings to enhance women representation in leadership positions. Consistent trainings with female candidates yields better results than offering a one-stand training during elections. Now, women leaders can organize trainings and pass their knowledge to other women to increase the relevance and impact of trainings on women. Thank you to our lovely guests. Thanks to the production team led by Esther Alaribe and Tunde Owoloeke. And Towards an Inclusive Governance in Nigeria on Political Arena continues next Tuesday at 2 o'clock on Women Radio 91.7. Towards an Inclusive Governance in Nigeria is an initiative of Nigerian Women Trust Fund and supported by Open Society Initiative of West Africa. I am Kimberly Ubiebo. Good afternoon.